Our next panelist, Ravi Singh, is the co-founder of the Delhi-based publishing company Speaking Tiger Books, established in 2014. He was formerly associated with Penguin Books and later with Aleph Book Company, where he had produced and edited various titles. Amrita Chaudhary, who will be moderating the session, is the author of Breach, a cybercrime thriller, and Faking It, an art crime thriller. She frequently writes on lifestyle, strategy, and marketing, and has been a business strategist in education, publishing, and currently in brand strategy. Thank you.
So welcome everybody for on this crowded Saturday afternoon. It's lovely to sit here in this beautiful space under the trees. And we've got a very eclectic panel. And before we begin and dive into publishing, Vivek mentioned that he's here more as a reader. And I thought let's start tangentially a little bit and look at readership in India. And that perhaps is one of the pet things that I feel challenges us as publishers and as as a former publisher. Who are the readers? Where are they? And I'll just start with a little anecdote, and then I'll ask Vivek for his comments on that. So I've always felt that maybe if I look at our country, we have 120 million Google users. If I were to classify readers in English, I'd say probably not more than 10 million, not counting the IAS study guide and so on. So what can we do? And in that 10 million, perhaps is where all the publishers are playing and all the publishers are all the lists are reaching out to the same set of people. So how do we create more readers? Vivek.
How do you create more readers?
Readers, yes.
Okay. Well, it starts from parents ideally. If they don't give their child a book to read, then the child will never know what a book is, and the child will never read. And as the child grows up, and especially in our environment where you're always battling for that mind space with an app, with a phone, with the iPad, how do you create readers then? You push parents, right? I mean, that's just one way of looking at it. And if you're not doing that, then you're not going to get a new set of readers. It will be the old and dusted, like all of us who love reading, but that's it. There will be no new additions to that pool. That's just my way of looking at it. I feel a parent should read to their child or give the child a book. I mean, you cannot force anyone to read, but you can start from somewhere.
So Ravi, you've been in publishing for a very long period of time, and just picking up on that parents sometimes do encourage children to read, but by the time middle school happens, reading habits drop down. And I had done a survey a couple of years back across multiple colleges in the country. And it was quite alarming to see that very tiny fraction of these people from the best management colleges were actually readers. And if they read, they perhaps read one popular commercial fiction in a year. So what can be done to sustain that readership throughout life? Because it's a challenge.
Is it working? Yeah. Okay. It's a difficult question. Parents encouraging is a good thing, but my parents never encouraged me to read. They didn't read. So I think it's easy enough to say that parents should do it, but I think it actually happens outside the home, really. And the school has a lot to do with it. So I think librarians should be educated to begin with, to have a variety of books, etc. But apart from that, I think talking as a publisher, I think there are two places where I'd expect more to happen than does happen. One, of course, is the retail, bookshops. There are people with lots of money, real estate, etc. And I think they should think of bookshops. The existing bookshops should think about a diverse list and making those areas a little more, browser friendly, if not biased, because not everybody coming in will buy a book, but you create the atmosphere for that. And apart from that, I don't think this is ever going to happen, at least not in our lifetime, but the government should do something about it. Because if you look at some of the most interesting publishing that happens, which attracts new readers, is smaller publishers in Canada, Australia, where they are supported by the government, who kind of, there are grants, but they also create a kind of climate where publishers, interesting publishers flourish, and then diversity also happens. But in India, I honestly don't see that happening. Even if they do decide to do that, it will be for their kind of the books that they want us to read, which I'm not sure people, young people especially, should be reading. So I don't know. I mean, this may sound pessimistic, I don't know, but people who want to read will find the books they want to read. As when people ask me, I say people who read, and especially those who buy books, have always been in a minority. This isn't new, so I think reading will survive. We shouldn't worry too much about it, but whatever little we can do, things like this, festivals like this, and I think publishers should get together in India and maybe have festivals across, pool resources and have little festivals, reading sessions across the country. But that doesn't happen. In the industry, we're more worried about, pulling the other publisher down rather than working together. So maybe,
It's interesting, like a lot of little seeding that we need to do, as you're saying, and risk taking. So from your perspective, Kannan, do you see any readership trends, in Tamil publishing?
I think why Tamil is supposed to be a growing market, but Tamils living in India, Singapore, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Europe, North America must be at least 60-70 million in population, and compared to that, our print runs are 1,000 copies, 2,000 copies. So obviously, majority of them don't read. And if I think of reason why they don't read, because I'll say there is no book culture in Tamil as it is. That schools don't encourage children to read, parents don't encourage children to read, and the government does not want citizens who are aware of the world. And if they want to read, they want them to read in English and not in Tamil. So that's the additional thing for Tamil reading. And the Tamil textbooks are so completely terrible, it's unimaginable that every student who goes through school will really hate Tamil. So despite all this, I see huge crowds of people coming to Chennai Book Fair, a lot of youngsters, and I'm very amazed and how they have survived all this, hindrances, and then still they come and read, want to buy Tamil books at Chennai Book Fair. But it does happen, and it is very amazing. And then only thing that is really going for Tamil, I would say, is the Tamil media. Tamil media is expanding, television, movies, publishing, magazines, papers. So that is creating awareness about Tamil. Actually, the media is teaching Tamil where the schools and colleges are not, and creating some interest in Tamil, and that's how I think readers come to Tamil finally, and not because of our education systems. I think our readers are not products, not created by the education system, but rather they are survivors of a very bad system.
That's interesting. So, picking up from there, if we look at publishing today, and you talked about risk-taking, Ravi, and creating a list that people want to read. So we are in the forces of, in the middle of this whole cycle of creative destruction, so to speak, in publishing. Many things are happening. It's in a state of flux. And obviously, economics is top of mind for many publishers. So in a scenario like this, how do you create and curate the list that you want to curate and you think that people should read?
You just take risks, and just hope that you will be able to sustain the list. There will be money for you to keep publishing. It isn't easy. I don't know, there really are no answers. You just have to hope for the best and keep publishing. And I think also these things are creating networks among publishers, like-minded people, just to create a support system. What exactly that will be, I don't know. I haven't yet thought about it. Pure economics, of course, is where it would work best. But really, from my experience, the thing is, if you don't have the same expectation of every book, if you don't want every book to sell 10,000 or even 5,000, that's a good beginning. Not every book will. And if that is what, and increasingly publishers do that, I understand that. We've also done that at certain stages in life where you think every second book should be a bestseller, which is nonsense. It's never going to be. What you then do is you homogenize the whole the publishing space, and that is one way of killing publishing in a sense, because what you're then going to do is you'll have only a certain kind of book, a certain kind of publisher thriving, and that's never good for the business in the long run. So So it's intelligent risk taking, and sometimes just reckless risk taking. But you just need to keep doing things that you want to do, and always be aware of. I'm a great champion of diversity. Different kinds of books and writing should be made available.
So, Vivek, once the lists are there, and today, online medium is a huge, medium in which, to reach consumers and readers. So how do you then, how should books then be curated online, do you think? Or talked about online so that readers actually find the books that they want to read?
Lists which are quirky enough, then the reason why I say that is because when you look at a site like Brain Pickings that people follow, or Flavor Wire, or Literary Hub, or Book Riot, they come up with these very interesting lists which are a mix of both the mass market paperback, so to say, and the very eclectic fiction or non-fiction list of books that are a part of that curation. So I think when that happens, and online buying is all about discovery. If you want your customers to discover, or if you want readers to discover it. If not, then you might as well just be selling what sells and rake in all the money. So I think there needs to be a clear distinguishing factor of a curated list and a non-curated list, which people know of. They know that it's there, but you're enabling the discovery. I don't think that's happening online today. There's no enabling discovery. You're very happy selling the new Harry Potter book, even if it is a play of 2 parts, or you're very happy selling the new Chetan Bhagat. You don't, like Ravi said, you have to take a risk even in merchandising, not just publishing, right? Because if you don't do that, then that's not going to be seen and that's not going to sell.
And especially for Indian books, right? If you're reading global books, you could find influencers, but for Indian books,
I'd just like to give an example, and this example is for Cobalt Blue. When that published, I think it was just by word of mouth that people went there and bought the book. It is a Marathi translation. For crying out loud, how many people are going to know of it? Forget going and buying it. But I think even media has a lot to do with it. Your reviews, or, you have online, you have blogs, you have people talking about it. So I think that helps. And when you do that, so a certain bit of marketing is also needed. And I think it needs to be a 360-degree effort of the publisher, the retailer, the author. The author cannot sit in isolation and say that, I won't do anything for the book. Like at once upon a time it used to happen. But today, you have to step out. If you want your book to be heard and to be read, you have to step out and do it.
I mean, agreed. And it's a lot more about market making today than just pure writing. So, Ravi, from your perspective, what do you think? I mean, when you're looking at all of the different channels that you want your books to be out in, is there is there something that you're trying to do to promote certain channels, to promote marketing along certain axes? What do you do?
Well, it's the online space really that we try and concentrate more on, because if you look at the existing print magazines, newspapers, etc., well, it's not their fault either, because every month if there are, let's say, 500 new books, they can't review all 500. But even given, allowing them that, even then, they play it very safe. They will only review the big books or what is topical at that moment, by a celebrity, etc. So you don't have the space there. So how are you going to get the word out about a book? And that is all that matters. So online really is the space where you need to concentrate, and you have strategies there. But what we also hope to do is to build word of mouth just by talking to people, sending books out. What we normally do, most publishers, is you have a list of reviewers and magazines and newspapers, online, etc., and you send them routinely. What we try and do is also send books to certain people who we think would like that kind of book, talk about it, and now, tweet, etc., and put the word out there. And then authors, I mean, wherever we have an author, we try and facilitate. We're not doing that enough, I'd say that, but we should. We try and facilitate this whole process where there will be a platform where they can promote their book. And there are some people who are brilliant at doing this. You talked about Cobalt Blue, the other book that also Jerry Pinto also translated. Oh, there he is. and Baluta, which a fantastic book. And because, you know, Daya Pawar, people knew about it to some extent, so it was easier to promote it. But in a festival like Jaipur Literature Festival, which is a universe, you know, of its own, crowded, where are you going to get space for a book like Baluta? And in the bookshop there, Jerry went and he did pop-up readings. He just, you know, he just stood up on a table, read from Baluta. And it is such a powerful book. And the translation, you know, is so brilliant. And that worked. You know, people bought books. They wouldn't even have looked at it. So, of course, that's the author doing that. But I think the publishers need to make it easier for them to do that, take them to places where this is possible. So that's when means, you know, spending some money, resources. I mean, as I said, we're not doing enough of that, but we should. I think those traditional ways of really, word of mouth really, I think, is the best way of promoting a book.
So it's interesting, like, you know, Bill Gates is apparently the new Oprah.
Is he?
Yes, like, you know, he's got a list.
Anybody is good, yeah. I mean, as long as he reads enough.
Yeah, so he's got a list, possibly. But looking at, like, you know, Tamil literature, who do you think would the influencers be in this scenario? How do you market? How would you market?
Actually, we don't have a budget to market our books because the numbers are already so small. It's very difficult for us to allot a department or a people to work on marketing. And there are no events like the Jaipur or other festivals around Tamil book market. So, and authors are notoriously shy most of the times, and they don't want to be in public market. That's the case of most authors. So we hope there is very limited review space for Tamil books. It's even much less than what is available in English, and there are lots of books coming out, and therefore, you know, we can't really hope that we are lucky if one of our books are reviewed and it goes to the public attention. And the Tamil media, they're completely dominated by the movie industry, and they have very little space for writing literature, which I think is very sad because they are completely missed. In the last 20 years, our market has doubled, tripled, you know, and Chennai Book Fair has become a huge phenomenon, but the media has more or less missed the entire development, what's happening in the publishing industry. They're completely focused on the movie industry, so we can't hope for their support. So basically it is what we do in our own magazine, Facebook, some online publicity, and we hope the readers will talk to their friends and word of mouth and the books will sell. If the numbers grow a little bit more, then probably we can allot some budget for marketing and try to take it from there, but right now it's very difficult.
You know, but this whole thing of marketing, budgets, etc., etc., I mean, it's, of course it has to be done, but I think it's mindlessly done in many cases, and some authors are guilty, I'd say, because huge budgets they demand, of course. I mean, one relief that I feel being in the space that I'm in now is that I don't have to deal with authors like that, and, you know, I'm very happy. Because, huh?
You're very lucky.
No, really.
I have to deal with them day in and day
Yeah, because what they do, so what kind of book would require a 1 crore marketing budget, right? It's senseless. What you're doing is you're taking resources away from a publisher, however big the publisher is, there are limited resources. So you're taking so much away from them for your book, which would probably have sold almost as much even without the crore, right? But you're denying that money to so many books that need to be promoted, so many authors who are, you know, really good authors whom people should read. So I think this whole thing of publishers don't do enough, or, you know, of course they don't do enough, because everybody wants to, you know, be intelligent about spending the money. But I would say resisting that kind of pressure is also important.
Agreed. I mean, like, you know, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. So as an author, obviously, like, you know, you want more, like, you know, budgets, but as a publisher, like, you know, truly, I understand how
sensible
you know,
budgets, of
difficult
course,
it
one
is,
understands.
yeah. But, you know, we've been talking, like, you know, touching a little bit upon, like, you know, this whole dichotomy. People are not reading, but, like, you know, at the same time, like, you know, content, even fiction content through other kinds of, like, you know, media, digital, like, you know, not, like, you know, but, like, you know, video content is on all platforms is doing really well. So there's this whole world of transmedia publishing. And coming from a more commercial-minded publishing background, like, you know, I've seen, like, you know, that those kinds of experiments have been happening a lot around the world.
Would you
not sure, like, you know,
tell us something about what kind
the
of
transmedia?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, since I was with a very commercial publishing house, we had, you know, we created a whole series of books, and the books actually had it created a fictional world, and in the fictional world we invited all of these real brands, which were let's say champagne brands, hotels, and so on, which allied with the story platform, and you could actually have offline events where you invited people, and hence so it's very transmedia, and you could actually embed along with the story, because you have the physical books, you have the online books on the website, which is created for this entire series. You could actually bring in other content, which could be in the written word format, or it could also be small clippings of video and other kinds of formats. So it was a very it was a huge experiment that we did around the world, and I'm not sure if we were able to monetize it completely, but clearly it was a very exciting experiment that we were doing. So do you think there is some space over here, especially when we are losing readers to video, to combine forces and reach out to a newer set of people?
Honestly, I haven't thought about it. I will now start thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, it can only be a good idea.
As a reader, I'm only speaking as a reader, right? If you club sort of say mediums and give it to me, I would hate it. I cannot think that I have to, after 10 pages, go to a video to see what's going on in the plot. I would probably just dump that book. I would never pick it up again. And then go online and to see what's going on there, because I have to continue the story, or hear an audio clip, I would lose the plot. Sorry, that's just, maybe I'm too traditional in my reading habits, but I think yeah, it wouldn't work with me. That's all.
So I think the purpose was not to break the story, but it was these additional streams or threads.
Amrita, sorry to cut you, but doesn't it take away from the plot essentially when you try all of that? To me, it just seems too much. It's too intimidating.
Perhaps.
I don't know, that's just my point of view.
It might be trying too hard to retain the reader that you're losing by the ropes.
But is that a reader at all then? I don't know. And if you have to sway and pander and do all of that, is that a reader that you're targeting in the end?
So shall I open the question to all of you? Is that the reader that you want to target? If reading levels are declining, are those the kinds of methods that you want to employ to bring readers in?
Reading levels are declining because if I look at the sales that happened, so yeah, I work for Flipkart, right? So I look at the sales that happen every day. Okay, fine, they are stable. They may have dropped a little, but that's primarily I think because of the discounts that we don't give, or if Amazon gives it, well and good. But that's not even a bone of contention there. But I'm just saying that. Then again, it's all about the price point, and if that's what it takes to get readers, so to say, then perhaps we just need to relook everything, and not just the discount or the price point. That's just my way of thinking.
If somebody really wants a book, they'll buy it for 200. You don't have to make it 150. But what do you think? I mean,
I'm not convinced that we are losing readers to other media. I see it happening, but people sit on television every day in Chennai and say that the youth does not read. They have lost the reading habit. They have gone into movies. They have gone into video. But as far as I can clearly see that more Tamils are reading books now than ever before in history of Tamil culture. Maybe not enough compared to the population, but definitely because there's more money to buy books now. The education has spread, and it is this education and the production of book writers writing books. It has broken all barriers. It's across all religion, all caste, rural. So obviously the reading is improving. It's going up, and Chennai Book Fair must have grown by 10 times the last 10 years. So where are these readers coming from? It's obviously most of them are youngsters, and these people saying that youngsters don't read. I don't see it happening.
I think you need to look at you remember that even compared to about 20 years ago, there are many more books being published. So yes, the minority, the perpetual minority that is the reading public, that is growing, but there are also so many titles that they have to buy. There's money, etc. So, and I think that's a good thing, which is why I'm not a great fan of this whole 100,000 copies, 1 million copies sold kind of thing. Those are nice figures, to hear about, and once in a while that should happen because that helps the entire publishing industry, But otherwise, what I would find encouraging is the number of titles, number of books, different titles that are selling, rather than how many copies of one mega seller. You know.
Certainly, I mean, like, staying away from doom and gloom, clearly there's been like
There's no doom
a
and
lot
gloom.
of exciting things that have happened
Yeah.
in the last like a decade, especially. Right? On that, note, there was branding of a publisher was something that we spoke about, it's difficult when there are so many different publishers, so many different lists. How do you instead of marketing just one book or one particular author, how do you market your entire list? How do you create credibility? How do you bring readers in? So any thoughts on that? Since you've just started a new.
Yeah, I think that actually that's a good thing to do, is rather than, especially if you have limited resources, is to look at individual titles. You look at clusters or, related set of books. So, for instance, we just started a popular science collection, which sounds like a stupid thing to do because popular science in India, it's, how many people read popular science. But you try it, and even if each book will sell only 1,500, you publish them in clusters of, let's say, 3 or 4, right? So 50, and you expect to sell about 1,500 of each, and then you do a collective promotion for the popular science list. So those kind of things you do. I think a thematic unity of that sort would work rather than, let's say, young authors promotion thing. I don't think that works. Yeah, that's something that we're trying. Yeah.
So when you're struggling with discoverability online, do you think the brand story of the publisher helps rather than the individual author?
So, yeah, sure. But the publisher needs to know their titles. I'm not talking about it, no offense or anything, but I know of publishers who don't know their imprints. They don't know their smaller and great authors, if they call them smaller, or the content. They just know that they published the book sometime. So I think the constant awareness in the publishing house as well, and even online and offline both. You enter a bookstore, the person doesn't know what's there on the shelf. The person has never heard of the author. You go online, sometimes you search for it, it's not there. So I'm looking at both the sides, right? I mean, I think those things need to be fixed and work hand in hand to be able to promote books that actually need to come in the limelight as well, and not just focus all energies on the 4 big books that you publish in that particular year.
That's true. I mean, that learned bookseller is probably a utopian dream as far as we are concerned now, right?
No,
Yes,
just one question. Can I ask Vivek a question? We were talking about word of mouth and people reading so that people at least hear what's in the book. And these long excerpts, making them available free online, I think is a good idea. What are the avenues available? What are the platforms? Where can you do that? I don't know.
Ravi, we do that all the time in terms of excerpts, and we've seen that nobody clicks, nobody reads the excerpt. I mean, even if the description of the book or the summary is too long, people don't read it. So that portion of the site doesn't get views. So I think maybe in the form of a mailer that goes out to people, I think that works for us, where there's something about the book. I think a quick Q&A with the author, like we spoke about sending out books to relevant readers, right? Or bloggers, that helps. Because then there's some word of mouth there. I think a platform like this is great to talk about books and talk about reading, which doesn't happen too often.
Yeah,
But online,
yeah,
I see a lot of it happening on Twitter. A lot of book discussions happen on Twitter and Facebook, and I see it all the time. Now, relevant or not for the books, I don't know, but it's still there. At least there's a conversation that's going on.
Yeah.
So I think,
If you do, as a follow-up to that, if you do reader contests and so on online, does that drive up engagement? Are you seeing that?
A contest only means that they want a free book. I wouldn't really think we should even look at that. No free books. I mean, no, really, think about it, and after that they won't even bother. I don't even know if they'll read it. It's a great thing that they won it, but I don't think it's needed. If they have to go out there, click, buy, read, and drive in their input back. I think that loop has to be there.
No, it's almost this thing about being apologetic about publishing, I think, and books. You need to stop that, which is why and I'm sorry, I haven't really understood the transmedia thing that you were talking about, but the little sense that I get of it is that you're trying too many things, you're almost apologizing for it being a book. You know, so this whole thing of giving free books and all, why? I mean, you know, why? We'll give you all the information that you need. We'll try and make it interesting to you. If it still doesn't interest you, we're not going to give it to you free. You know.
So you're saying we've turned the tide a bit too much in the favor of marketing at the moment.
think so.
Yeah?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And going back then to creating this whole, you talked about lists, and there are individual authors, right? And how do you balance, because a list usually has one or two stellar authors, right? So how do you then ensure that you do, while marketing the list, get those two stellar authors out there?
Well, you just do the best for every book. What can you do? Really, see, there's always going to be a kind of hierarchy. And I think part of our job really is to fight that hierarchy also. Yes, they will naturally, the big names will naturally get much more attention in media space. So what are you going to do? You're going to, do something to ensure that they don't get that, so that of the limited pool, a certain amount of media space is available to other books. That's not going to happen. So let that happen. Do the best there. But concentrate your efforts on the other titles which won't normally get written about and talked about. I think focus your attention there a bit. The big authors, often all you have to do is just have one launch and give alcohol, and the press will come and write about it, really. But it's the other ones where you cannot afford to give alcohol, where you have to try even harder. So,
Without those reader contests.
No reader contest. What reader contest? What do they achieve?
So, Kanan, talking about Tamil, do you see your list actually comprises of both translations from around the world, as well as really a list that you're curating in Tamil. So how do you see that space? Where are the readers? What do people like? How's the space evolving?
See, we have focused our brand around publishing literature, literary fiction and non-fiction, and a few books in other areas. But we sort of built a brand that we are very careful about what we publish, and we try to edit and bring out the best if it's a translation. And therefore, suppose I do a modern classic list, and then the readers actually believe that because the book is in our list, and then it is a classic. So we try to maintain that credibility, and therefore, when I put a book on the classic rack, people immediately will come and take it. They may not know the author, they may not have heard of the novel, but because we say it's a classic, so we have to keep that trust, and we try to do that. Be very careful about what we are doing. And I see that readers are very open to translations. They go for a translated title as much as they would buy an original Tamil author title, which I think is a very nice thing. And they are open to new languages. I'm trying to bring in more and more new languages rather than, there's already been a lot of Bengali and Malayalam translations into Tamil. But so I'm trying to look at other areas, maybe very little of Hindi. So Hindi, or maybe something from Flemish, something from Iceland. So trying to bring all those new authors, and since we are just beginning, we are trying to look at more Nobel Prize authors, so that there's a tag on the cover saying it's the Nobel Prize winner, and the reader might more easily connect. But I think even beyond that, if a book gets spoken about, the readers like it, they tell their friends, the sale picks up. And when coming to focus on books, we don't focus on the best-selling books because they are already selling. We are trying to look at books that deserve to reader attention, but they're not getting it, and that's a book we try to promote in our list.
That's extremely, it's important actually, because when you see a lot of people going towards functional English, and you find that their ability to comprehend things is really limited to those 500 words in English that they know. So how do you then get these individuals to become more thinking individuals and contributing members of the country? And I think probably reading and reading in different languages perhaps has to play that role for them. So Vivek, from your perspective, if you're looking at online book sales, is there for language publishing, is there a difference? Do you see it picking up online?
Sadly, no. Yeah, it doesn't happen. But that's also because I think to a very large extent, I've seen the trend in online sellers also not promoting that kind of, those kind of books in regional languages or language publishing. Doesn't happen. Because you're just feeding into the market what the market wants to buy. Always, right? You're not, like, and it's all about where the spend is going. And it's going there, sadly.
What about ebooks? And do you think mobiles would be, or smartphones would be the new platform for reading books
No.
in the future? No.
No, I mean, at least not in the foreseeable future as I see it. If it does happen, it'll be nice, and we'll all start doing it. But right now, I don't think that. No. I mean, it hasn't succeeded anywhere in the world except, I think, in China. And there, because, there are many restrictions on what is available to you online, so that may be one reason. But apart from that, nowhere in the world has this whole, mobile phone, and Japan, right? China.
Africa as well. Like,
Sorry?
there's Africa. It's
Where in Africa? All of Africa?
All over, actually. There's this platform called Baidu. And what Baidu does is that it creates a smartphone-like interface on your feature phone. And Africa has like an even starker distribution issues and logistics issues than us. So a lot of publishers are on Baidu, and a lot of textbooks are on Baidu. So in villages where you can't get
A lot of who?
phys-
Experts.
Textbook publishers.
Textbook publishers. Yes, of
Academic
course, that's the
publishers,
difference. We're not talking
academic
about textbook
publishers,
publishing.
But also regular publishers.
Okay,
as
well, that's news to me.
publishers
I
as well.
didn't think that it was a big thing in Africa at all. It may be, but I think it hasn't really been a great success anywhere. But as I said, if it does succeed in India, great. But even ebooks are such a small percentage of your revenue right now. So let's see how this turns out.
They keep promising the hockey stick will arrive, right?
Yeah, I
One
know.
day.
Yeah, well, we're waiting.
So should we open up to the audience with some questions?
Huh?
Hockey stick? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm too much of a business person. The hockey stick, the growth. Growth patterns. Growth pattern, you start.
Okay, my question has already been torpedoed in a sense by what Vivek said about the fact that excerpts are not read online. But actually, I want to ask this question because I used to edit the Sunday section of a newspaper, and in the 80s, and we always had excerpts up to 2,000 words
Yeah.
from a new book, at least once a month, I think we would have, which was useful for us who was editing the magazine section as well as for the publisher. And from my memory, I don't recall any money exchange because it helped both ways. And I think for a lot of readers, the fact that they got a substantial chunk to read helped them to decide whether they wanted to read that book or not. But I don't see that anymore in the print media, English print media, except for Mint, which gives a very short excerpt. So is this something that publishers themselves are not trying, or is it because the English print media has become so commercial now that they would not accept an excerpt unless it's...
No, there's hardly, look at the space available for regular book reviews. Where are the excerpts going to appear? Publishers, I can tell you, all publishers try very, very hard to place excerpts. There are a few publishers, like for instance at Penguin, when we tried to get excerpts, we were particular. I think it wasn't really a very wise strategy that even if you pay 1,000 rupees, you have to pay something. And the bigger the author would ask for 20,000, etc. I think that it's senseless. But most publishers don't expect payment. But there are very, very few newspapers, magazines whom you can go to and say, here's a free excerpt. Of course, if we go to them and if we say, let's say, what? I mean, if Sonia Gandhi wrote a book and you say, okay, except everybody wants it. But that's actually not even necessary, But for the regular books, no. There's no space available.
So if I could just add to it, the only people, my friends at Harvard Business Publishing, for example, they are managing to get many books excerpted. But then, these are business books, right? So they get excerpted in the business pages, and there is a ready audience for that. But
No, actually,
trade books,
no. Yeah, but I won't say that nobody does. Some of them do. Online, it happens. A lot of it happens. In the regular ones, there are sometimes you'd see excerpts in the Hindustan Times. Indian Express would do it, and the two main magazines, Outlook and India Today, they do that too. But again, those are for the really big books. But no, otherwise no. They're not really interested in selling books. Why should they be? you know.
Wonderful. It's a beautiful evening, wonderful to see you all on the stage and speaking on this, particularly to this festival here. What a wonderful time we are having. So let me tell you one thing. The books in Delhi and the difference between the major hub centers, Calcutta, Mumbai, all the. Let me just tell you, matter of fact, it's just my belief that sometimes a man who wants to read or a man who is literate enough, sometimes just one book helps him to come up in life or just save his life. Apart from that, it's not about online or the things happening. But the best thing is to be charitable enough to the persons who cannot afford some books. If we can, donate some, if we can give a gift to a person who is not able to get a 2,000 book or a 20,000 book or something. And let me tell you one thing: the major books in Delhi, the major magazines, are never available in the city of Mumbai. The magazines. And let me tell you one thing: people here can afford a newspaper, but when they go to a stall, they hardly purchase even most of the times they're reluctant to purchase a 40 rupee book or a 100 rupee book or an annual magazine. And let me tell you, the best perfect. The best of magazines are the best of books are never available in Mumbai. What we have in Delhi, the political circles, the literate, you people of the 4th estate or the 7th estate are very lucky to be intellectual. And now we have the Androids and the Twitters and the Facebook, which all has opened. Maybe they can go down to their.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Any other questions from the audience?
I know there's this belief of popular culture versus, I don't want to call it niche culture, but so to speak. If there is a way to merge the two, and I'm getting to what I'm about to ask you, there are a lot of books and a lot of titles that don't get covered in mainstream media like everyone's been talking about. Is there a way of maybe finding role models in popular culture to help push titles that otherwise may not get pushed? That's part one of my question. Part two is, I know there's a lot of the reading community will not particularly appreciate the merger of the two, but is there some way that it can be done without hurting the sentiment of the reading community and at the same time trying to push the numbers so that more people end up being part of that reading community?
No, I don't think that there'll be very, very few writers, and certainly no publisher who would be unhappy to, try this. And attempts have been made. But more should be done, yes. But many of these people, obviously they have to be celebrities, for them to be able to endorse a book and for it to make a difference. Many of them don't have the time. We've tried, and some of them have been very polite and said, "Thank you for sending me this book." Not even asking what am I supposed to do with it. It's very clear what we've asked you to do, but some of them, it's very rare, but they do, and when they do that, it does make some difference. And yes, it's a good thing to try. We'll keep trying.
Just to add, recently there was a book launch that happened with Vidya Balan, and for once it was very refreshing to see a celebrity not talk about him or herself and actually sit down and engage with the book and people present there. Maybe it could, it's just a thought, maybe it could be interesting to have people like that who are into the arts as opposed to people who are doing it for themselves in self-glorification. So maybe, it's just
Never mind, even if they do it for glorification, how does it matter? They talk about the book,
So on that, speaking of Bollywood and perhaps television, do you think there's a space for adaptations and that helping books back in return?
Yeah, but
Is that happening?
you have no control over it. Somebody should want to make a film or a television serial, put their money in it. So it's not in our control. We can hope that it happens.
It is happening.
It is
On and off.
Yeah,
It depends on even what they pick.
yeah.
If it is current or long gone. Sure. It's up to them.
I can see a hand in the back. Is there? So let me just ask some other questions then. because we've got maybe another 5 minutes or so. So when you're looking at lists and when you're looking at books, there's obviously a large set of books from around the world that we are bringing into India versus the books that are coming out by Indian authors and produced for our readers here. So when you're looking at that entire space of picking books from around the world, do you think it's changed a little bit compared to you're talking about science lists and so on? So is that changing the way you're looking at lists from around the world?
Of course it's changing. I mean, it's a great thing that it's changing, right? Like, I was just talking to Ravi earlier about the book that he's coming out with in another 10 days called Beauty is a Wound. It's by an Indonesian writer and nobody's heard of it. I mean, very few people have heard of it in India. So it's a great thing that Speaking Tiger is coming out with a book like that, which will get promoted in India and will see an audience for it. So I think it's all about perspective of the publisher as well, and that's changing, and that's changed over so many years. You see Penguin doing, such brave books coming out in terms of lists. I'm talking about Aleph, right? That was created for that. And you always look at a book like that, and of course, and you need popular publishing because that will sustain this kind of publishing, like we all know. So it's only great that out of the mill books come out, and yeah, I mean, if the more the merrier, I say.
And I would assume that the right kind of reader would find the book like that, right?
Well, they will hopefully. As I was saying, I mean, excerpts really, I still think word of mouth excerpts will help. And fortunately, we have, and I have no great hopes of the print media, but Scroll, Wire, those are really long excerpts appear regularly, and that's where I'm hoping that more of that will start to happen, and people will hear about books that they wouldn't normally get to read about.
So quick round robin, two positive things that you think are going to happen to the publishing industry, trends.
It's already happening. It's already happening. I think a lot of great books are coming out, and there's no dearth of good books. You just have to find them. That's all. And so yeah, I think it's just happening everywhere. I think every publishing house has a branch or an arm or an imprint that ensures that this gets taken care of. And nothing called good or bad. I mean, whatever is there is there. You sustain sales and then you come out with great stuff as well.
Yeah, so what's the question for me?
So, positive things on the horizon for publishing.
Yeah, for me, I think the positive things that, like I said, despite so many distractions, the readers are increasing, and there are many interesting new writers because, unlike before, they are coming from all across societies. So they're bringing new experiences, stories of new life which we didn't know about, and all that is getting written about. I think in terms of number of books that are published, we are doing more than ever before. And yeah, those are things. And the only breakthrough I'm hoping for now is that the media gives us more attention. But there are problems there because many of the media houses have their own book publishing wing now, and they don't want other publishers to get publicity. That is one major issue. And then when editors or reporters tell me that we can't do it because it won't sell, I really don't trust them because they never tried it. It's more of a, they keep selling each other what will sell, what won't sell, but who has ever tried it? Did they try publishing a page book of reviews, a page full of excerpts, and then decide that it won't sell? I don't think so, because it doesn't interest them, probably because they are not book readers, and they find it easier to go back to the movies, do an interview with the movie star, and then they come and tell you this is what people want. But I don't believe that at all. If you give the readers new things, they'll definitely welcome it. But you don't give them because you are confined by your own limitations, and that's not the readers' limitations.
Pretty much the same. I agree. With the World Book Fair in Delhi last month, it was really surprising, and it was a pleasant surprise to see the crowds there and so many young people. So I don't think there's any reason to despair. There are people who buy books. We just need to make we need to concentrate on the availability of books. So I think the retail, that's a hope, And I hope that people with money will also park it in the business of books, bookshops, publishing, because there's a lot, there's now a lot of support for the media coming in from people who have money. And I think they should also look at publishing and books as something that requires money. And if they have a lot of money, why shouldn't they put it in that? So I'm
Absolutely. Like,
hoping.
if I think of every tiny library in any tiny
Absolutely.
part of the US,
Absolutely.
you think
Mobile library, someone should really put a lot of money in those.
Great. So do we have more time? Yeah. Okay. So I think with that, it's been a lovely discussion, very eclectic discussion with some really like-minded people over here, and it's been good, great fun to be here.